Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We are Baltimore positive. I guess we're Philadelphia positive because Patrick Mahomes didn't win and all the gambling fixes and all that stuff are all over with. We're going to be up in Bel Air, weather pending, on Wednesday at Lib's Grill. We'll be doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour, getting it back out on the road. I still owe 1 cup of Super Bowl to Fadley's. We're doing that next Tuesday on the 18th. It's all brought to you by the Magic 8 Ball. We did have some lucky winners all last week. I was giving these tickets away like Oprah was giving away. You get one, you get one. Everybody gets one. All week long, you will hear some of the most inspiring conversations I have all year. Somebody wrote on the internet, it's all me, me, me. I. All you do is talk about yourself. All I did last week and the week before that was talk about nothing but great stuff going on in our community. So make sure you check it out. It's called A Cup of Soup or Bowl. All of our sponsors lifted and helped, whether it was Coco's, whether it was State Fair, whether it was Fadley's, whether it was Costas last week. We were at Cooper's North on Friday. This guy was going to get out late in the afternoon, and it turns out I had Chris Foran out from the Towson Torch. I had Greg Landry out, who spent some time with this guy from Towson Transfers, who did No One Listens, Everyone Hears, our documentary last year. And even Luke Jones crossed the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, the Mason-Dixon line, and moved into Timonium and did some baseball with me. Leonard Raskin joins us now. He was not with us on Friday. Turns out it's better, dude, because we got to watch the game on Sunday. We got the game to talk about now. On Friday, we would have talked about, I don't know, charity, politics, baseball, something else, But
Eagles
quite
fly,
a game,
Eagles
huh? Quite a
fly.
game, right? Like I said to my wife on Monday morning, I'm like, the one thing I don't miss after 27 years of going to the Super Bowl, the Monday morning going to the airport where it's a disaster, especially New Orleans because the airport's really small. And I said,
Terrible.
but every Monday morning when I did that for most of the years of all of my 27 years of going, almost every game was a pretty good game. This is the first time. Remember in the 80s when we were a little younger, every game stunk for a
Yeah,
decade?
yeah, absolutely.
This was reminded me of that. Third quarter,
It was a great game. It
Okay,
was a
you
great
liked it.
game. Well, I liked it because well, look, I like greatness. I like success. I'm all about it. I don't want to punish success, but I like to see sometimes it get cut down a little bit. and and the Chiefs Kingdom looked a little too positive about everything. I didn't see the numbers. I'm sure they'll be out somewhere, but I think it was 70-30 in the crowd for the Eagles.
Oh, it was well, I said to my wife when it
So the
happened,
Chiefs
I'm like,
Kingdom, they're like a little like, we're gonna win. I don't need to go. It's no big deal. It's
well,
just
they
another
spent a lot of
game.
money going, man. I was down in Miami the first time they went, and it was insane. It was a sea of red.
It's a
So, I
lot
mean,
of money,
it's a
and the
lot of
tickets are
money, and you
getting
can't do it four
higher.
times in 5 years.
Right, right. And I'll tell you this: I watched some of the post game. I always watch some of the post game just to see some of the pundits and what they're talking about. I don't know who I saw say it. I didn't hear it anywhere else when I was flipping the dial. But somebody said Chiefs played a lot of football in the last few years. They looked like they got tired.
Yeah, I did. They made mistakes,
They made a lot of
and I
mistakes.
think the other thing that really caught up with them from talking to so many experts, and
Yeah,
I mean, I've had a dozen of the Hall of Fame voters, and it turns out Yonda Suggs didn't get in, Smith,
nope,
whatever. We'll
nope.
figure all that out. And I got deep inside all of that, but for all of the pundits, every one of them I had on said this is not the greatest Chiefs team.
Right.
They've made it this far.
They won a
Rubber.
lot of one-score games,
Yeah.
a lot of lucky bounces, a lot of good breaks, and the Eagles looked like they were ready to win that game. They came out strong. Offense played great. Chiefs did shut down Saquon for the most part, but Hurts found a way with his legs and with his receivers. His tight end, Dallas Goedert, had a great game.
But it wasn't running the ball the way I thought it would be. It was
No, that's what I'm
mistakes
saying.
from
They shut
Mahomes.
Saquon down,
Yeah.
and the rest of Jalen Hurts' arsenal lit him up. He
Well,
just
dude, you
came
throw
out.
pick sixes early in the game. You throw
That's right.
interceptions early in the game.
That's right.
And you get behind early in the game
It's
because
hard
of
to
it.
come back.
And your
They pin their ears back and go.
defense is doing okay. I mean, the
Right.
defense was okay in the first half
Right.
of the Chiefs, but this was not. The Ravens were a better team than the Chiefs.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that
Absolutely.
gets you nothing. That gets
And
you that.
that's right. You got to win the games when it matters. And as we saw, Ravens Buffalo, what happened? 3 turnovers, some drop passes, and the ball bounces the wrong way. And what do we see on the Super Bowl? Chiefs, 3 turnovers, couple bad bounces. The punter put the ball in the end zone. They started on the 20, 25, 30. The Chiefs punter put the ball on the 6, and Mahomes threw an interception on the 9 or the 15, whatever. They got after him.
Well, after two sacks, two
right.
sacks and a pick. That's a bad.
They got
that's a bad
after
drive.
him. Yeah,
two sacks and a pick six.
3 and out is not. That's not the 3 and out you're hoping for. Move along. Move along. That's not what you're looking for.
Well, but we haven't seen that happen to Mahomes or Brady or any of those kind of.
No.
You know who got besieged? I'll give you a game that was a bad game now, because look, man, I don't look through the backs of all of the bubblegum cards for all the final scores. Off the top of my head, the worst game for sure was the one in New York. And that was like in 14, right before my wife got cancer. I remember it real well, but the ball went over Manning's head. We were in that end zone. The game was over. Like the game, like they got freight trained in that game because of mistakes early in the game, right? Mistakes in the first quarter.
Ruin you. And they don't ruin you by themselves. They ruin you when the other team takes advantage and puts points on the board. And mistakes led to Philly touchdowns. And that was it. They put him in a position they wanted him in. Their defense stood up really big. You think about it. Last year, second half of the season, the Eagles folded, and their defense stunk.
They weren't very good the first month of the year either till Vic Fangio came.
2-2. And then suddenly they flipped switch, turned it around, 15-1 before the Super Bowl, 16-1 after the Super Bowl. The 22-year-old kid with a pick 6. Saquon ran enough, I guess, to keep him in the box and let Jalen throw the ball around. And how about Jalen Hurts, right? He's a kid playing at Alabama, playing his heart out, national championship, right? They sat him.
He got benched.
He got benched in the national championship. Philly, well, then he went to Oklahoma, won the Heisman. Philly drafts him, and what happened? Do you remember when I can remember this. You surely remember. You remember all this stuff. They drafted him in Philly, and the fans were outraged. We just won the Super Bowl.
Philly. They were outraged.
But I'm saying.
But they had.
What are we drafting him for? We just won the Super Bowl. We've got our quarterback. What do we need this kid for? He's not any good. He's out of Alabama. They benched him. Now look.
Well, they wasted all the money on Sam Bradford. They wasted all the money on Carson Wentz. They wasted draft picks. They had 2 franchise quarterback cap numbers on their team at one point for 5 years. I mean, all of this turmoil, they've won a Super Bowl, lost a Super Bowl, and won another Super Bowl since the last time Harbaugh's won 3 playoff games. Like literally.
Right. Now they've got Jalen Hurts, who has been to 2 Super Bowls and won one of them of the last 3. And nobody wanted him. Nobody wanted him. He's
since
garbage.
The last time Tomlin won a playoff game.
Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game in how long?
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Forever.
And Harbaugh and Lamar have won too few, quite frankly. You know, over the body of of being
no doubt.
It's time to step up.
Look, we talked about this a year ago. We talked about it 2 years ago, and I said then, and I'll say it again: Super Bowl or bust. The season will be a failure one more time, especially if they re-sign. Now, is Henry on a 1 year? Was he on a 1 year deal?
Henry was on a deal that they could roll through and figure out whether they liked him or not because of the cap number.
Right. But they love him.
He's signed. He's on the team.
Right.
He's
so you got Derrick Henry for another year. Obviously, Lamar. You got everybody you want. You
don't have everybody you want. So hang on a second.
No. I'm saying you got a Pro Bowl. You got your Pro Bowl receiver. Right. You need to shore up the line. You got to figure out what's going to happen with Ronnie Stanley. Right. You signed Humphrey.
Well, the figuring out with Ronnie Stanley is what we do around here, which is he's now a $21 million tackle again.
Right. So we either figure out to pay him or we figure out a kid, like we do.
Yeah. Like we do. The kid might be Rosengarten going right side to left side.
Could be.
And then they don't pick till 27th. So the whole notion of who's going to be there.
Right. So the line, when I say you got your stud players, you need the line, Absolutely need the
Well,
line.
the line is what won the game for the Eagles on Sunday
Yeah,
night.
they
Defensive
look.
line, I'm talking about the defensive
Hurts
line.
was mostly, well, even the offensive line. Hurts was mostly standing there the whole time. I don't know if they hit him. I don't think maybe they one sack, maybe. I don't even know. They didn't touch him. He had plenty of time to throw. He had plenty of time to look around. When they rushed past him. He ran up the gut and a few big first downs with his legs. Uh, so the Ravens once again go into the offseason now with next year being Super Bowl or bust for a team that's good enough to get there and should get there.
Well, they're good enough to get there because of the players they have. They
That's
have
what I'm
Kyle
saying.
Hamilton.
That's what
They
I'm
have
saying.
Roquan Smith at top of school. They have Marlon Humphrey come back and play great this year. The
Yep.
defensive
Yep.
line that the Ravens have, maybe not as good as the Eagles, but pretty good.
Pretty
The, the,
good.
the questions for the Ravens are going to be offensive
Offensive
line,
line.
and then going through the season and seeing where the penalties, the mistakes, and not
Yeah.
losing games to the Raiders and the
That's
Browns and
right. You
those
got
kind
to
of
be at
games.
home. You got to play home. You got to find a way to play home and win. That's all there is to it. But again, we said this last year, we said the year before, Super Bowl or bust with the talent they have and the team they've got. That'll be the benchmark. And until Lamar wins one, that's what it'll be.
Well, the Eagles, to me, through the year and beating the Ravens in December, beating them here the way they did, and it wasn't fluky or weird to give them the game. The Eagles came in and won the game,
Yep.
and that was a sort of a disturbing Monday. I have my
Yeah.
column. I actually saw my column last week that I wrote about that because it was Tucker missing kicks,
Yep.
right? It was like
Yep.
it was all of that going on right before Christmas, and then the wind blew, and they won 3 games in 10 days, and they were
Yep.
beating teams, and the offense figured it out. They figured out the deep safety situation. They didn't need the kicker. Some of the mistakes were nullified by the fact
Right.
that if they got in
Sure.
bad down and distance, they made it work. So, all of that happened. Flowers getting injured, key for them.
Bad.
And then
Bad.
just in a general sense, them not playing their best football against the best competition when they get into bad weather
Gave it
conditions, good
away.
teams on the
Gave it
road.
away to Buffalo. 3 turnovers and drop balls. I think Travis Kelce had a pretty bad night. He dropped a number of passes. In garbage time, he caught some balls,
I
but
don't
until
think
then,
it
it
would have
didn't matter.
mattered at all, right? I mean, the
I don't
the
know. You catch
story
a
in
couple early. You catch a couple early, and you stay on the field. Maybe it's different. But when you're 3 and out and 3 and out and 3 and out, that's it. That's what happens. The other team scores, and away they go.
the story of the game, as Sports Illustrated is writing it, is the defensive line of the Eagles and the Chiefs were not a factor offensively at all because they got him off the field or they got him into situations of throwing picks and making mistakes.
Yep.
And
You
so
don't
to
see
me, the
that. You didn't
Eagles
see
front
that too
line, the
much.
Eagles front seven, whatever Vic Fangio did,
Yeah.
is
Both
MVP
sides.
level for me on
Absolutely.
Sunday
Should have been
night.
the MVP. Should have been the MVP. Fangio should have been the MVP of the game.
Leonard Raskin said, well, I mean, we talk about what the Ravens did. And by the way, I want to throw this out. Free plug for my wife's company, Verizon. They
Yeah.
had a big stadium event on Sunday.
Didn't know
And,
anything
I
about
don't
it.
go to a lot of those. I mean, through the charity space and what you do with
Was
Raskin
this
Global and all your work.
presented by or
Well, I'll give you the whole idea.
yeah,
And this
yeah,
was
yeah.
explained to me. How much are Super Bowl commercials these days? Do
I
you
think
know?
they said 8 million
$8 million.
bucks.
So
30
if you had
seconds.
$8 million to have a commercial, or you had $8 million to do something else with it, what would you do? Verizon decided, because of their partnership with the league, to
Yep.
get most of them are in stadiums, most of them are
Right.
in club levels, but they
Right.
did it in every place in the league. And they invited their employees, their local employees, and anyone who was a Verizon customer. If you got the email, knew about it, you could sign up
Okay.
for free tickets.
That
It was
must
a
be because
free
I had
party.
AT&T.
Well, there you go. It was a free party.
Right.
And there were, I don't know, maybe 1,500 people.
Okay.
It was
Manageable.
a very full club level.
Okay.
Very, very full, warm club level. Band, DJ,
But
celebrities,
manageable.
games, kids, free little crab cakes, free food for some. They had concessions for sale. They had, wingdings. It was very nice.
Sure.
So we
Sure.
got down there about 3:30, and the celebrities were all from the Super Bowl 35 team. I don't think they did this on purpose. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But it
Right.
was Jamal
Right.
Lewis, who did the
Right.
show with me
Sure.
last week, lives in Atlanta. He's coaching
Yeah.
football
Sure.
with Ed Reed and his kid. Um, Femi Abedejo, who lives
Yep.
here, I see him
Yep.
all the time, and he did a term with me last year, a couple Super Bowl for Turnaround, which is a
Yeah.
an organization here that helps women and children who have been abused and homeless,
Yeah.
the whole deal, bad stuff that we'll be talking about all week long. Turnaround, and that's Femi's deal. And then Jermaine Lewis, right? So
Okay.
Jermaine Lewis, my wife has never met Jermaine in all the 22 years of doing
Right.
all this. Jermaine wasn't around a lot, like as an alum and this and that and here and there. Still lives here, Maryland guy, lives out in Randallstown now. And over the last decade or so, he's gotten more involved with the team and doing autographs and selling, being a part
Right.
of like shaking hands and skyboxes and doing all that stuff. And I
Yeah.
see him and we're Facebook friends, but I
Yep.
don't have his number and I haven't talked to him, but we've flirted on Facebook. I see him like something or comment or,
Yeah.
I'll put a picture up from that era and he'll be like, hey man, how are you? Haven't been in a room with Jermaine. And the Verizon staff, we got there early when they were setting up all the crepe paper and getting all the food ready.
Yep.
And my wife's got her Verizon badge, and her
Right. Sure.
can you
Her
hear me now and
credentials.
all that. By the way, she woke me up yesterday and she said, I'm gonna wear my Verizon stuff before we go to the game. I'm like, cool. And I'm like, can you hear me now? And she said, Buzz Aldrin is doing the commercials. And I'm like, Buzz Aldrin's still alive? She's like, yeah, he's 95.
He's
So
living
he's
on the moon.
yeah, right. I mean, like I'm like, and I told her I met John Glenn once, and it meant something to me. So we go down to the Verizon thing, and we're getting everything ready, and all the Verizon staff's excited about meeting the players because they're coming early, and
Sure.
some of them had kids,
Yeah.
meeting
Absolutely.
players and whatnot. And Jamal did the show, and I love Jamal, and so if I see Jamal, and I did see Jamal, it was like love up, right? See Femi, but Jermaine, it was like, dude, I haven't seen you forever. And it was like, great. So my wife asked me about the legend of Jermaine a little bit. And I'm like, Jermaine, I said, the only 7 points that the Giants scored that day that it cost you your wife some furniture when you were at the game, January
All good.
28th,
All
2001.
good.
I said, the only play of the game, other than the Armstead interception that got
Right.
whistled and sent back,
Right.
was the
The
kickoff
kick
return.
return.
And Cornell Brown and Brad Jackson blew some coverage. I try not to give Brad a hard time about it. He does have a ring and they won. And
That's
I
right.
love Cornell.
That's right.
So I love Brad more because I love
But
Brad.
then the
But
subsequent kick.
but the subsequent kick, Jay Lou took it all the way back to
That's
the
right.
house, and he had just lost a shot. Like all of this. So I was
Yeah.
telling my wife about Jermaine, but I was telling the girls at Verizon, it was one guy, but it was mainly women that were like from the communications from New Jersey, and one of them was from Pikesville who works in New Jersey. It was all Verizon people. My wife
Right.
was kibitzing about their network, EVPs and all that stuff. And I said, you do know when you meet Jermaine, he's like shorter than me. And they're
Right.
like, nah. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like I used to stand next to Jermaine. Jermaine was
Right.
my favorite dude in the locker room because he was the only guy my size, like ever. Well, there was the kick returner that they drafted from Kentucky that was a little guy. He was only here a minute or two. He
I
was
don't know.
the guy after Jermaine. He was a really little guy, but
Got it.
nonetheless. So I got to see Jermaine Lewis. I got to
Cool.
relive Super Bowl 35 glory. I got to see the Black Wing, which used to be the press box.
There
I
you
got to
go.
walk into the locker room and it still smells the same.
Yeah, beautiful.
It made me all from the 25 years I was there, all the
Right.
nice
And
things that John
none of the
Harbaugh
execs
said.
were there, huh?
It was completely empty. We were there before it opened.
Right.
So I wound up, I wore my Derrick Henry jersey and people got, issue with me online about it. I'm like, I've been a
What?
Houston Oiler fan since 1974.
Come on.
Stop. So
Silly.
it's a beautiful. So I had a great Super Bowl Sunday and
That's
did
cool.
something very different. And I got
They
to
had the
honor.
game on all the TVs.
Yo, yeah. Oh my God.
Could
They
you
had
go
a band,
outside?
the DJ. No. I came home. I left.
No, I'm saying, could you go outside and they had it on the
Oh
jumbotron?
yeah. Well, if you want to watch it in the cold,
Right, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
who's doing that?
I don't know. Somebody was
There
out
were
there.
listen. There were lots of families, lots of kids. It was
Great.
very,
It's great.
very DEI. It was very. It was
So
just.
that's what you do
it
with
was-
$8 million.
You know what? It was people that I dare say are never on the club level.
Right.
Are rarely.
Right.
It was just a beautiful event. So
That's great.
that's what they did instead of buying a $24 million in commercials, I guess.
And they did it all over the country.
They did it in the country to get spirit for football teams in football markets where there's dense
And
population and they have
people
Verizon,
loving their company.
Yeah, and it was a great time. But more than that, it's the first time they've ever done it. Let me let you in on a little secret because I know David Modell was a guy that you loved.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl we're talking about, January 28th, 01.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Our first Super Bowl, our moment of glory. I'll never forget this. David Modell was incensed, incensed. Now the stadium was brand new, right? It was 98,
Tampa.
99. No, our stadium,
Oh, our
Baltimore,
stadium.
our
Okay, go
stadium in
ahead. Yeah,
Baltimore.
got it.
David wanted to open the stadium up, right? In
For
'01.
people to watch it.
The league would not allow him. You know why? It messed up ratings.
Yeah,
If
TV.
if
People wouldn't be watching.
30,000 people went
Local.
down to the stadium, that's
Local.
15,000 TVs that wouldn't have the game on.
Right. Local
And
ratings.
so literally the party I attended that, was for there were Eagles fans. I didn't see any Chiefs fans, but there were Eagles fans. We live
Sure,
in an
sure,
area where it's
sure.
not far, little children and
Right. But it
Saquon
keeps the
jerseys and
household
stuff like
off the
that.
TV.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And in the old days, they could never throw parties like that and David was so mad.
Mm,
David's like, my God, and this is the way David was. David was not in the least a dick about this. He was the
right.
exact opposite. He was like, taxpayers paid money for this. PSL, I want to invite my PSL holder. We got people. Raskin spent $10,000 on a PSL. I want to invite him to the stadium. I want people to congregate. I want people to celebrate. We want to do this together, 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 together. We're a new
They
franchise.
said, no,
We
thank
left
you.
Cleveland. We're Barney's. We have this beautiful, beautiful stadium to throw a party. You're not going to, we can make money. And they wouldn't let him do it. They wouldn't let him
I
do it.
get it.
So that,
They said, build a museum.
well, you know what it is? I guess I am teaching a little history
Hmm.
today because it all makes sense, right? But I'm gathered with 2,000 people on Sunday, and TVs aren't the issue. You know the story now, right? People are talking. That we're getting real close to this going to be a 59.99 pay-per-view event, right?
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, we're getting to be
Or
that
it's going to
point.
be on some streaming where you have to pay for it for at least. At least.
You're a money guy. You advise a lot of people on
Yep.
money. Leonard Raskin
Yep.
is here, Raskin
That's
Global.
what we do.
My son is a way cord cutter and a really
Yeah.
modern person about
Yeah.
streaming. Luke
Same.
Jones still lives in Pennsylvania, and if you ever saw our videos flicker, it's because he lived on a road where we couldn't even get him speed past DSL because he lives off a farm, not in York, but like in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A mile past the middle of nowhere, and you can't get
Internet. Good
you
internet.
can't get good, yeah, which is a real problem in this state if you travel, and I did on the track
Absolutely.
everywhere, right? But so Luke said to me, we had some gumbo when you didn't show up on Friday and doing this
Hey,
segment
there
instead,
you go.
which I'm appreciative of because I'm more appreciative doing it now. But Luke and I had a bowl of soup, and he's like, I got this stream and that stream, and I'm going to FUBU this and get rid of this, and Masson's going to be on FUBU so I can get the Orioles games, and the Orioles start in 6 weeks, and I'm on a free trial with Paramount and a free trial with Hulu, and I'm like,
You're paying more than cable.
that's exactly what
Oh,
he
they
said.
hooked you.
He said,
They
if
hooked you
I
up.
want all of this, it's going to be a mess. And I want you to speak to that a little bit because I think you
They
try to
got us
manage
figured out.
people's money,
Oh,
but
they
there
got it
is a
figured out.
nickel and dime part of
Dude,
all of
I
this, right?
find people with subscriptions you can't even believe. They have subscriptions for the Hulu and the Netflix and the Paramount and the Apple and the Google and the music streaming and before you know it, they're absolutely paying twice what they paid for cable.
I'll say this. I put my work credit card. I mean, I run a lot. I run a business here, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
everything you see that makes our blogs work and powers our web and powers our radio station, I mean, they think I'm Jerry Coleman, but I've run an
Right.
operation here for
Right.
33 years.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I have subscriptions. And everybody who owns a business has all, or even if you just
Sure.
pay your insurance with your credit card every
Right.
month, right? It's a
Right.
recurring fee. You give them your credit card, and then the expiration runs out in 26 or
You got
27.
to pop a
And
new one.
and then you get we're going to cancel you. Last week, I got all of the cancel. I'm talking serious stuff. Apple,
Right.
Google, my
Right.
website, GoDaddy,
And then
all
you
of
got to
that.
figure, you got to put
And
all
the
the
reason
cards in.
is, in November, I had the old host, and I'm not going to call them criminals, Blue Host Services, but they were a company out of Austin, Texas that got sold off to the gypsies, and who knows in China, Russia,
Yeah.
Afghanistan, that owns it or whatever.
Right.
But they banged me for $1,400 last November, and I had to chase them around, and they never credited they're thieves, right?
Yeah.
So
Mess.
this year they banged it, and I had a dispute on it,
Right.
and it shut down my credit card back in November. And you know what I said? I did the same thing, two flying middle
Yeah,
fingers
yeah.
to the credit card company. I said, I want new numbers.
Right,
Cancel everything.
right.
I want everything out. And now I'm paying the piper where
You got to
I'm
update
getting all the
everybody.
emails. Well, I'm getting the emails in where I have
Right.
to reset it all.
Yep.
And in my mind, I'm okay with that because I need Apple for X dollars a
Right.
month.
And
I
you got to
need Google.
figure out which ones you're absolutely going to keep.
It needs to be reevaluated because I got robbed last year. I
Yeah,
did.
there are services. I mean, I had okay, so I'll give you a quick one. I have DirecTV. I think I was the first subscriber.
Well,
I've
you
had
did that for football for
well, I've had
Sundays?
DirecTV for years.
Okay.
So we've been in our house 30 years now. When we moved into our house, we had the cloverleaf, the big giant satellite in the backyard.
Okay.
When we moved in, that's what we had. That was what
That
it
was
was.
DirecTV was the
That was
gray thing, the gray
no,
dish.
no, no. I'm talking about 6-foot satellite dish on a pole in the backyard. The guy that we bought the house from had that, and that's how the house was wired for TV.
Well, he might have been the last one to get cable up where you were in
Right, right,
Jarrettsville or whatever,
right.
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So DirecTV was just coming on board, and we were one of the first ones. We dug the pole for the satellite dish out of the
So
backyard.
they didn't even have like the NFL yet, right?
No,
Okay.
no.
Right. Okay.
So I've had DirecTV to have TV forever, and I've
And I
had
remember
it.
when they bought ads from me back in the 90s and the turn of the
so I've-
century when they
I've
were
had
trying to
it.
pull people in. Yeah.
And then I had it for the NFL package because I was watching all the games whenever I wanted, whatever I wanted. And then last year, 2 years ago, it stopped. The only reason I kept DirecTV was because of the NFL package.
You and everybody else.
Well, now it went to YouTube. Okay, so I'm not getting YouTube. I don't need another subscription for YouTube. I got DirecTV. Well, this past year, if you remember earlier in the year, last year, DirecTV went dark. They didn't carry whatever channels for a while. They like stopped. They had this big dispute. Couldn't get ESPN.
They were fighting with Paramount or
they were fighting
Disney.
with ESPN and Disney. So I had no ESPN, and it was lingering. So I did what everybody else does. I did
Follow Scott Van Pelt on Twitter.
I did a free subscription to YouTube TV for a month.
Okay.
That was easy. Free for a month. Give them your credit card. It's free for a month. 3 weeks later, DirecTV comes back with ESPN's back. But I don't know how to frickin' cancel YouTube TV. So I'm now paying $90 a month for YouTube TV on top of everything else I pay for. So I had to FaceTime with the boy in Dublin. I feel like I'm 110 years old.
Unhook my credit card.
Unhook, cancel YouTube TV.
Yeah, I got
it. Daddy, you got to click here. So we share the screen. Daddy, you got to click here. Okay. Then you got to go to your Google account. All right. Then you got to go to charges. All right. Then you got to find YouTube. There it is. Then you got to unsubscribe. All right. We unsubscribed. And by then I had already paid 2 months of $90 a month.
By the way, Bill Maher, who I know, you're not politically aligned with.
He's fine.
Whatever. He did a shtick the other night, and I only saw it on YouTube, by the way.
Right.
His and it was Super Bowl week. He did it, and it was funny as hell. No matter where you sit politically,
I had to see it.
It was his last parting shots or whatever the hell he calls them, and it was about YouTube TV. He said, remember when you could like watch a game and click to another game and watch a game? I have Verizon because we're a Verizon family, right? So like my thing acts like cable TV, but like really, really full disclosure, Leonard, and you know this about me. I don't watch TV anymore.
Right.
I don't watch Trump. I don't watch MSNBC, CNN, Fox. Blah, blah, blah. I don't watch any of it. I watch football. I watch some sports. I watch some baseball.
Yeah.
I don't watch movies. I don't watch the news. I don't watch I just don't. The TV is I can touch the TV from here. This is the remote right here. It's never on. If it is, it's smooth jazz when I'm writing a letter to Steve Bisciotti, which I'll be doing next week. So like I'm not a television soul as much as I saw every episode of Gilligan's Island and Hogan's Heroes and the Break. I just did all that when I was young.
Right.
And now I there's nothing that Stephen A. Smith is going to say that I have any interest in.
I can't stand him.
Any of that. And look, Steve was a part of my act 30 years ago at the turn of this. I know Stephen, right? So like, I don't need any of that.
Right.
But the part of it is that everybody's figuring out cord cutting, cable, this, that.
Yeah, but
This
you
is where
better
the
manage it.
Orioles, and I'll
You
get
better
into the
manage
Orioles
it.
season, they better figure out how we're all going to be doing this because I just stopped doing it altogether. And
Is it Monumental? Right, they're on Monument. No, they're on
they're
Masson.
on Masson, yeah.
Monumental is the Caps. That's where I see the Caps.
See, you
So
don't
again,
even know, and you're a
no.
fan.
I keep Direct
It's there's a
TV.
confusion even
Look,
if
I've got Direct TV, and whenever I travel, I just pull out my iPad, I turn on Monumental, and I watch the Caps. And when I'm
okay,
traveling, I turn on Masson, I watch the Orioles. But I get it through Direct TV. I mean,
okay.
my son is in Ireland, and he can watch Direct TV stream through his computer and watch
But what do you
local
pay him for
news.
that? What do you pay a month for that?
$100.
Okay, what's $100 is $100. That's
Right, but that's not the point. The point is when you have Hulu and Fubo and YouTube and Paramount
and
and
Apple
Disney and Apple, it
and
adds up to
Amazon, throw
130.
them in too.
Right, then it's
Peacock,
150, then
put
it's
Peacock in
200.
there.
That's my point.
Well, if you
And
want to
you're
watch all
paying
these games, I'm just telling you, like these are the
right.
things that come at
Right.
me, and
Then you're
the
going to be
game's either
paying
on or it's not
200.
on.
You're
I'm
going to
not.
be paying 200 a month, not the 100 I pay for Direct TV. So the question is, what I would say is a lot of people are paying 300 because they got it all.
If
I don't
my wife left tomorrow and cut the cable, I don't know what I would do because we only have the cable because of her to
right.
some degree, and
You
she
got the
doesn't watch it
FiOS.
much.
You don't even
And
have cable. You got the
all I care
FiOS.
about are the football games and the baseball games at this
Right.
point in my life. And if I want to watch a movie, there's a computer here and I can figure
Hockey
it out.
games. What about the hockey games? Come on now. Ovechkin scored a couple over the weekend. He
You
had
know
3
what?
assists the other day. He's 16 away with 30 games to go.
You have tickets for any of these games in March that he
I
might
haven't
win?
yet, but I
All
will
right,
be
well,
looking at April. I think the beginning of April, right before the end of the
he
season.
could score 3 tomorrow night. No, he'll be within 10 by next week.
Absolutely. Well, not tomorrow night because now we're shut down for
Right.
the 4 country some BS nonsense.
Dude, I have no idea what they do. The All-Star game in the NHL, they never had it baked. It was good when it was like 18-16 and it was free form.
Right.
I
Right.
went to one All-Star
Now
game
it's 3
in my
on
life.
3 and skills and it's nonsense. But
Covered the 1991 NHL
was that
All-Star
at the
game.
Cap Center?
No, it was at the Igloo in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
flew up with the great Jimmy Jackson. He covered it for the Morning Sun, and I covered it for the Evening Sun.
There you go.
I think flights were $29 on Piedmont
Right.
or something back then. Jack Gibbons was kind enough to send me.
Piedmont.
Jack did it.
People's Air.
Jack sent me on the Baltimore Sun's budget because he loved me and I loved hockey.
There you
and
go.
it was something I wanted to do. And he's just like, kid, you do a good job here. If it's $300 against just go. Go for a
Right.
weekend, have a good time, chasing
Right.
girls, do what you do, you eat some shrimp cocktail. So I went up to Pittsburgh for a day, up and
Right.
back.
Right.
And it was Lemieux and Gretzky.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
So, I mean, it was,
And it was, like you said, 20-19.
it was an all-star game in the NHL. Who watches it?
Right.
Who goes to it? It's all about the skills competition. It's a fan
Yeah.
event now, right?
Yeah. So now they're doing the 4 nations tournament, and they don't have Russia in it.
Why?
It's not the 5 nations. It's the U.S. and Canada, Sweden and Finland.
So who do the Russian kids play for? They don't play.
No, they don't. They're off. Ovechkin's off. The Capitals, who are the number 2 team in the league right now behind Winnipeg, have the best goalie in the NHL, Logan Thompson, who just signed a new contract, have 0 players selected in the 4 Nations Cup. 0. So they all have a nice 10 days vacation, which is lovely.
Well, I hope they come back with a nice tan and ready to go win the cup.
And go win the cup. That's exactly what they're going to do.
I want to do hockey with you because I exchanged some messages with Ted Leonsis last week.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, good for Ted.
I want to give a shout out. It was about Wes Johnson, who was battling and a longtime voice. And I met Wes downtown. There was a little comedy shop on Water Street that was getting a start maybe about 20 years ago, and Wes was doing comedy. Wes Johnson, good man, jolly
great
guy,
voice, great
voice, the voice of the Washington Capitals.
He's fantastic.
He is great. So get
well soon. Didn't they
Wes,
find him in a hotel room or something? Is he? Yeah. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah,
Something
Did something bad happen to Wes over the weekend that I don't know?
No, no, no. When he
No, no,
got
no.
sick, am I
You know,
thinking the right?
he's been in Atlanta sick. Yeah, like the whole thing.
Right.
Like, so I as long as Wes is okay. But there
No,
was like a
he's
GoFundMe for
yeah, yeah,
Wes,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you and
yeah,
I talk about GoFundMes and
yeah,
insurance and
yeah.
people
Not
like
my
that.
thing,
So
but anyway.
nonetheless, right. I just want to give a shout out. And Ted Leonsis and I exchanged some messages
Yeah,
back and forth. That's all.
yeah. Got it.
Um, Leonard is getting ready
Craig
for
Lachlan,
baseball season.
another one. How
Oh,
about
there you
Locker?
go. Give that shout out, please do.
Craig
He's doing
Lachlan
well.
had open heart surgery, bypass surgery. You don't see many of those these days. They put a stent in, they put a little bubble balloon, and you're all better. But Craig's out with. They just showed a picture of him laying in a hospital bed with open heart surgery, bypass surgery for something that he had. So he's going to be out for a while. Some craziness going on in the announcing booth. Something must be in the air in DC. Who knows?
Well, I mean, they're scoring goals and they're winning for a
They're
change.
scoring
So
goals. They're winning. They're the best team in the East, and I want to see Ovechkin pass Gretzky's record, and you're going to see Gretzky hanging around. You're going to see Bettman.
getting his last cup of coffee. Yeah, I saw. Yeah, right. This is the end for him, I think, for Gary Bettman. Leonard Raskin is our guest. He is Raskin Global. You can find him out on the front of Baltimore Positive, the other side, as well as at Raskin Global. RaskinGlobal.com. My goodness, I'm mixing up my words. We are going to be getting the Crab Cake Tour back out on the road. We're supposed to be at Lib's Grill on Wednesday, weather pending this week up in Bel Air. Next week on Tuesday, we are at Fade Lee's at Lexington Market. Come on down for the seafood. Come on down for a cup of Super Bowl. I'm going to have some fresh guests out next Tuesday as well as we muddle through February, getting ready for pitchers, catchers, baseball. Luke and I have talked about that. It is a cup of soup or bowl week all week long here. Make sure you're tuning in, listening in, hearing the messaging of a lot of folks doing a lot of great things here in Baltimore. We call it Baltimore Positive.